Chosen one, pause for a moment. Before another sound reaches your ears, before your mind tries to analyze why you're here, feel this. This exact second was arranged. Not by algorithms, not by coincidence, but by a higher intelligence that knows your name, your scars, and the battles you never speak about. You didn't stumble into this message. It found you, quietly, deliberately, because heaven knew this would be the moment your spirit was finally still enough to listen. There's a reason your heart feels alert right now. A reason the words are already echoing inside you. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe and comment, "I receive," if your spirit is already responding. Because this message is about to speak directly to you, not to the crowd, not to the surface, but to the core of who you are. Something ancient within you recognizes what's happening. Chosen one, you've walked through seasons that never made sense. Doors closed without explanation. Relationships collapsed just when you were trying to believe. Plans dissolved at the edge of breakthrough. And people assumed you were unlucky, distracted, or delayed. But they didn't see the investigation happening behind the scenes. They didn't see heaven leaning in, watching closely, calculating outcomes you could not see from where you stood. What you thought was loss was interception. What felt like rejection was divine protection. There was something moving toward you that looked harmless, maybe even like an answer to your prayers. But its shadow carried an ending that would have drained your light, altered your destiny, and slowly silenced your calling. God saw the trajectory. He saw the spiritual cost. He saw the version of you that would have survived but never fully lived. And in mercy, not punishment, He blocked it. That's why you're still here. That's why you're still searching. That's why, despite the confusion, your spirit never gave up. Chosen one, this message is not here to comfort you. It's here to confirm you, to reveal why certain things had to end before they ended you, to expose the unseen hands that pulled you back just in time. And as we go deeper, a hidden truth is about to rise to the surface, one that will reframe your past, steady your present, and unlock what's been waiting for you all along. Stay with me. What was blocked was never meant to bury you. It was meant to save you. Chosen one, there are moments in life when everything changes without warning. No countdown, no explanation. One day you're walking towards something with hope, routine, or even certainty, and the next moment it's gone, cut off, blocked, redirected. And the first question that rises in your chest is always the same. Why so suddenly? Why didn't I get time to prepare? Why didn't God warn me? But here is the truth most people never realize. Divine intervention rarely announces itself. When God steps in quickly, it's not because He is careless with your emotions. It's because what was approaching you carried a danger that could not be delayed. Heaven does not hesitate when a soul is at risk. Think about it. If a child is about to touch fire, a loving parent doesn't sit them down and explain the physics of heat. They pull the child back instantly, hard, fast, without permission, and later, only later, does the child understand that the sudden force was actually protection. In the same way, chosen one, what felt abrupt in your life was not punishment. It was urgency. God saw something you could not see yet. Not just the surface outcome, but the long-term erosion it would have caused. The slow draining of your peace, the subtle compromise of your values, the quiet dimming of your calling. If it had continued even a little longer, it would have cost you something sacred. So the interruption had to be immediate. Ask yourself this honestly. What if the delay would have convinced you to stay? What if more time would have made you emotionally attached to something that was spiritually dangerous? Sometimes the only way to save you is to remove the option of choice altogether. Not because God doesn't trust you, but because He knows how persuasive certain paths can be when they look right but lead wrong. The speed of the blockage wasn't cruelty, it was mercy moving at full force. Heaven sounded an alarm you couldn't hear yet. Angels don't negotiate with destruction, they intercept it. And yes, it shocked you, it left you confused. It may have even shaken your faith for a moment. But notice this, you survived it. You're still here, still breathing, still searching for truth. That alone tells you something powerful was prevented. So instead of asking, why did this end so fast? Ask this: what was God saving me from becoming? What version of you never had to exist because intervention arrived right on time? Chosen one, sudden endings often hide silent rescues. And as we go deeper, you're about to see that what felt like chaos was actually precision. Nothing was random, nothing was late, and nothing was wasted. Chosen one, when it first happened, it didn't feel holy. It didn't feel protective or purposeful. It felt like loss. Something you had invested your heart in slipped through your hands. Plans you carefully built collapsed without warning. Doors you prayed would stay open shut quietly, and people you thought would walk with you vanished without explanation. In those moments, your spirit didn't say, "God is protecting me." It whispered, "Why is this being taken from me?" And that reaction makes sense, because divine protection rarely arrives dressed in comfort. Most of the time, it arrives disguised as disappointment. It speaks the language of endings before it ever explains the reason. You were looking at what you lost, while God was looking at what you were spared from. Ask yourself something gently. If you had known the full outcome, would you have walked away on your own? Or would hope, attachment, or familiarity have convinced you to stay longer than your soul could afford? This is why protection sometimes looks like removal, because explanation would have come too late, and persuasion would not have been strong enough. What you saw was the surface event. What you didn't see was the unseen trajectory beneath it. God wasn't reacting to the present moment. He was responding to the future. He saw how staying would have slowly rewritten you, how the environment, the pressure, the compromise, or the emotional weight would have eroded your clarity over time. Not all danger arrives loud and violent. Some of it arrives softly smiling, asking you to stay just a little longer. So heaven intervened, not to hurt you, but to preserve what is sacred within you. That's why it felt unfair. That's why there was no closure. That's why things ended in ways that didn't honor the effort you put in. Protection does not always explain itself, because if it did, it would give destruction more time to operate. Sometimes God removes you first and explains later, once you are safe enough to understand without being pulled back. Notice this, chosen one. You lost access, but you didn't lose yourself. You lost the plan, but you didn't lose your purpose. You lost the connection, but you didn't lose your calling. That alone tells you the hand of God was involved. So let me ask you, what if what your calling lost was actually a shield? What if the door that closed was blocking something you were never meant to carry? And what if the silence you were left with was not abandonment, but space? Space for healing, clarity, and realignment. Chosen one, divine protection doesn't always feel gentle, but it is always precise. And as you continue listening, you'll begin to see that what was taken from you did not weaken you. It preserved the version of you that still has a future worth stepping into. Chosen one of the hardest truths to accept is that the greatest dangers in life are often the ones we never see approaching. They don't announce themselves with chaos or fear. They arrive quietly, wrapped in familiarity, comfort, or even purpose. And that's why God's protection had to move in silence, because the damage forming ahead of you wasn't immediate. It was progressive. You weren't just being saved from a single moment. You were being spared from a chain reaction. If things had continued the way they were, the harm would not have happened all at once. It would have happened slowly, so slowly you might not have noticed until your strength was already gone. Emotional erosion would have set in first, the constant need to explain yourself, the subtle feeling of being unseen, the quiet compromise of what you truly felt, just to keep the situation alive. Tell me, chosen one, how long can a soul survive while shrinking itself? Then would have come spiritual exhaustion, not the kind that makes you collapse, but the kind that makes you numb. Prayer would feel heavy, clarity would blur. The fire you once had would dim, not because you stopped believing, but because you were carrying a weight you were never meant to carry. And the most dangerous part? You would have blamed yourself for feeling that way. God saw this future before it touched you. He saw the long-term regret forming, the moment you would look back and realize how much of yourself you gave away trying to make something work that was never aligned with your calling. Regret doesn't come from failure alone. It comes from staying too long in what quietly drains you. And heaven refused to let that be your story. So God didn't just remove a person, a place, or a plan. He removed the pattern. He interrupted the sequence before it could fully develop. Like stopping the first domino before the entire line falls, he stepped in at the only moment where rescue was still clean, even if it felt painful. Ask yourself this now. Have you noticed that, despite the loss, something inside you is still intact? Your conscience, your sensitivity, your desire for truth. That's not an accident. That's evidence of protection. Because if the chain reaction had completed, you might still be standing, but you wouldn't recognize yourself anymore. Chosen one, God protects more than your circumstances. He protects your future self, the version of you that still has clarity, purpose, and peace waiting ahead. And as we move forward, you'll begin to realize that what didn't happen in your life was just as important as what did. You weren't abandoned. You were intercepted right on time. Chosen one, when God steps in to protect you, it rarely feels simple. It rarely arrives wrapped in the immediate peace you hope for. In fact, the first thing you feel is often confusion. Your mind expected one path, one result, one fulfillment of your plans. And suddenly that expectation is shattered. Doors close, plans dissolve, people vanish. And in that instant, the world seems off balance. You wonder, why did this happen? Why now? Why me? But here is a spiritual truth you must hold close. Confusion is the natural companion of divine protection. It is the space between what your human understanding perceives and what your higher self is being steered toward. When you feel unsettled, it is not chaos. It is a sacred pause, a necessary disruption to align you with what you cannot yet see. God's redirection rarely matches our timetable. We desire immediate relief, instant explanation, a clear path forward. But God operates on a timeline that considers outcomes beyond your present comprehension. Ask yourself this, chosen one. Have you ever wondered why the universe sometimes seems to delay clarity? Why answers arrive late or opportunities vanish before they fully manifest? And here's the part many overlook. Intervention doesn't just protect your circumstances, it protects you. It protects your peace, your clarity, your spiritual alignment. It preserves the version of you that still believes, that still carries hope, and that still has a calling to fulfill. Every inexplicable stop, every redirected plan, every time the universe seemed to conspire against your desire, is evidence that your life is not left to chance. It is being carefully curated by a wisdom far beyond your understanding. Chosen one, start recognizing these signs. The sudden stops, the inexplicable shifts, the moments when nothing works no matter how hard you push. These are not coincidences. They are divine signals that your life is being preserved. They are the proof that even in moments of confusion, God is steering you, guarding you, and ensuring that you are never broken by what was meant to harm you. Ask yourself now, how many times has God intervened in my life before I even realized it? Each moment is a quiet miracle, a divine rescue, and a reminder that your path is being guided with precision and love. Stay alert, chosen one, because the signs are always there. And when you look back, you will realize that every obstacle, every sudden stop, and every unexpected shift was never an ending. It was salvation in disguise. Chosen one, there are moments in life when what seems like a delay or an obstacle is actually the most crucial act of preservation your soul could ever experience. Some paths don't just postpone your destiny, they destroy it. They look promising, they feel aligned, they whisper possibility, but underneath the surface, they carry a hidden cost, the slow erosion of your spirit, the compromise of your values, the subtle silencing of your calling. And that is precisely what God intervened to prevent in your life. Think about it carefully. You've been blocked, redirected, delayed, or stopped in ways that at first felt painful or confusing. Doors that seemed ready to open slammed shut. Plans that felt concrete dissolved. People who appeared aligned suddenly disappeared. And in that moment, your human mind may have questioned God's timing, wondering why now? why me? But now looking deeper, you must realize that your calling, your purpose, and your spiritual integrity were at stake. If those paths had continued unchecked, they could have subtly, invisibly dismantled the trajectory of your life. Ask yourself this: what would I have been willing to compromise just to hold on? What parts of my spirit would have been quietly worn down by staying? That is the danger some opportunities hide. They present themselves as advancement or blessing, but carry consequences that can cripple your calling. God, in His wisdom, intervened, not to punish you, not to make your life harder, but to preserve the blueprint of who you were created to be, the very life path your soul was destined to walk. This intervention was surgical. It was precise. It wasn't random, and it wasn't careless. It was God stepping in quietly, sometimes invisibly, to ensure that your story continues unbroken. Every blockage, every redirection, every unexpected ending was a shield, protecting not just your present, but your future self, the version of you that would fulfill your calling fully without compromise, without erosion, without regret. You are still here because your story isn't finished. It was protected, carefully curated, and guided by a wisdom far beyond human understanding. And consider the beauty of this. Chosen one, preservation is more than survival. It's about ensuring that the potential embedded in your soul is allowed to bloom. You were spared not merely to exist, but to flourish in alignment with your highest purpose. The interruptions in your life are actually openings, spaces created for your soul to recover, your vision to sharpen, and your calling to remain unbroken. They were moments of divine calibration, moments that reposition you exactly where you were meant to be. So now pause and reflect. How many times has an unexpected ending actually redirected me toward a better, purer, or more aligned path? How many moments of confusion were actually divine interventions preserving my destiny? Each of these questions is a reminder that God is not just protecting your present. He is protecting the version of you that the world still needs, the version of you that has yet to fulfill your calling. Chosen one, your life path has been guarded, your spirit has been preserved, and your story, though interrupted in places, continues because divine wisdom knew what you could not, that some doors must close, some paths must end, and some moments must be blocked, not to stop you, but to ensure that your destiny survives. And as you move forward, remember this: what was blocked was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to protect you, align you, and preserve the calling that only you can fulfill. Your journey is because heaven is orchestrating the movement of your life with precision. And sometimes the safest path is one you didn't plan, one you didn't anticipate. Confusion is the signal that something in your life has shifted out of your control and into divine care. It is the echo of protection, the subtle whisper of, "Trust me, I am still guiding you." Your mind craves certainty, but your spirit craves alignment. And here is where the magic happens. While confusion feels uncomfortable, it is also a sign that your soul is being preserved. You may not see it immediately, but every twist, every delay, every sudden blockage is working quietly to prevent a larger collapse that your human perspective cannot yet grasp. What feels like disruption now is actually preparation for a breakthrough you will recognize in hindsight. Think about the moments you later realized something bad was actually a blessing in disguise. The relationships that ended, the opportunities that slipped away, the failures that felt crushing. At first there was confusion, maybe even despair, but eventually clarity emerged. You saw the wisdom of the timing, the protection in the delay, the mercy in what felt like misfortune. That same process is happening now. Chosen one. What feels unclear is the hand of God gently redirecting your life away from what would have harmed you and toward what will empower you. So instead of resisting the confusion, lean into it. Ask yourself, what might I be being protected from that I cannot yet see? What is the higher purpose in this moment of uncertainty? Every unanswered question, every sudden shift, is a signal that your life is being carefully steered, that your calling is being preserved, and that your spirit is still intact. Chosen one, immediate relief is not always the sign of divine intervention. Clarity comes later. And once the danger has passed, once the shadows have receded, you will see the design in the delay, the protection in the confusion, and the divine orchestration that has been working silently for your highest good. Every moment of uncertainty is a spiritual checkpoint, a signal that God's hand has never left your side. And when the clarity finally arrives, it will feel nothing short of miraculous. Chosen one, have you ever paused and wondered why life sometimes stops you in your tracks so abruptly? One moment, everything seems to be moving forward with momentum, and the next, a sudden stop. Doors that once opened effortlessly slam shut. Plans that felt certain crumble in ways you cannot explain. The relationships, opportunities, and circumstances that seemed aligned with your desires suddenly defy logic. At first, you may have thought it was coincidence. You may have whispered to yourself, maybe I miscalculated, maybe I'm unlucky. But listen carefully, chosen one. These are signs of divine intervention. They are the fingerprints of God's hand moving in your life, often when danger is near, and when a path that seems safe is actually unsafe for your soul. When a path becomes unsafe, God rarely announces it with fanfare. Instead, he orchestrates subtle shifts, small nudges, and sometimes seemingly frustrating obstacles. These shifts are not punishment, they are protection. Think about the times when, no matter how hard you tried, things refused to align. You followed every instruction, made every effort, and still the results didn't match your expectations. That resistance, that inexplicable friction, was not your failure. It was a signal that your life was being redirected before harm could take root. Ask yourself, chosen one, how many times have you been stopped in your tracks just before a situation would have drained your spirit or compromised your calling? Even the sudden stops carry messages. They are often the most visible proof that God is working behind the scenes. Perhaps a job fell through, a relationship ended, or a long-awaited opportunity dissolved without explanation. To the human mind, these moments feel unfair, confusing, or cruel, but to the soul, they are acts of divine mercy. They are reminders that God sees the full trajectory of your life. He knows the subtle cracks, the long-term erosion, the unseen consequences, and when he intervenes, he stops you before the impact reaches your spirit, ensuring you remain intact for the next chapter of your destiny. Sometimes intervention appears in shifts that are quieter, almost imperceptible, a feeling that something isn't right, a nudge to wait, a sudden change in circumstances that leads you elsewhere. These moments may feel small or insignificant, but they are just as important as the dramatic, unmistakable interruptions. They are God whispering in the only way your soul will hear. This path is not for you. I am redirecting you before it's too late.